Whether this is your first time camping or you've been camping hundreds of times, it makes sense that you need to plan your camping trips. I'm Emma from Emma and Sean Outdoors. We are avid adventurers and travelers, and after countless camping trips, we have a pretty good system down when it comes to planning these types of things. So these are my top 5 tips for planning your next camping trip. My first tip is figure out what type of camping you want to do. There's actually a lot of different ways you can camp, and they can be as simple or as complicated as you like. You can do group camping with friends and family. You can also go out on your own and do a solo adventure. You can camp in a tent, you can camp in your car, or you can even do glamping in like a yurt or an A-frame. There's also a lot of different locations where you can camp. We do a lot of camping in the woods or in fields, even on farms, and there's also desert camping, mountain camping, camping on the beach. There's just really a lot of options out there of where you can camp. And then there's also deciding, are you going to camp at a campground like at a state park? Are you gonna do wild camping that can be free in national forests? Or do you even choose to do private camping on someone's property? Really, it just comes down to your preferences and what you think you're going to enjoy the most. It's also about how comfortable you are camping and what kind of gear do you have available. If you've never been camping before, maybe you want to go with a group of people who have gone camping and stay at a campground where there's running water and toilets, which is something you're comfortable with. If you want to step out of your comfort zone a little bit, you can go wild camping where there's basically no amenities provided and you're gonna have to go to the bathroom in the woods or bring your own toilet in. It really is just whatever you want to do. So that first step for planning your trip truly is figuring out what type of camping do I want to do. Do I want to do like a typical camping trip, or do I want to step a little bit out of my comfort zone and try something new? Now that you've figured out what type of camping you want to do, my second tip is how to find a camp spot. There are so many online resources to finding that perfect camp spot. My favorite resource for finding camping spots is Hipcamp. And if you've never heard of Hipcamp before, it's basically an Airbnb for camping. Sean and I use this almost exclusively whenever we go on camping trips. And if you're familiar with Airbnb, Hipcamp functions exactly the same way. You go onto the website, choose the dates, choose what kind of camping you want to do, choose how many people are going camping, and you can search whichever area you want. You can filter it out by the price, by the amenities at the campsites, and even what type of campsites you're looking for. And all of these are usually privately owned campsites that are on people's personal property, or they're at actual private campgrounds. And it's just a really, really great website that I cannot recommend enough. We use it all the time, and we have had really, really good experiences using Hipcamp and staying at places there. Most of the adventures that we have on this channel that involve camping or staying at cabins have actually been found through Hipcamp. I've been using Hipcamp for almost 2 years now, and I seriously can't recommend it enough. You can also camp at state campgrounds, which I recommend if you're going in a group or if this is your first camping trip. All you have to do is do a quick Google search of your state followed by state campgrounds, and it will usually bring you to your state's government website where you can look at all the different campgrounds in the entire state and reserve campsites. And I found, at least here in Maryland, the price of those campgrounds will usually range between $30 or $40. And if you're going in a group, you can divide that cost among your friends, and it actually ends up being a pretty cheap way to camp. Now, if you want to do wild camping or you want to try and find some free camping, your best bets are going to be national forest land, or if you're out in the western United States, it's going to be the Bureau of Land Management land. Both of these types of lands allow dispersed camping, and you can usually find maps of these lands online on their websites and figure out from there where you might want to camp. Another resource that we use when looking for dispersed campsites in these areas is Gaia GPS. Now, Gaia GPS is not a free resource. You do have to pay to use it, so if you're really into camping and adventuring, I would highly recommend getting Gaia GPS. It allows you to find a ton of different dispersed campsites, free campsites, campgrounds, but it will also show you national forest land, wildlife management land, BLM land, national park areas, and it's just a really great resource if you want to do more exploring and traveling not just camping, but even overlanding, backpacking. You can plan trips on Gaia GPS, and it will just show you really everything in the area that you would need to know about when going out and exploring, camping, backpacking, traveling, whatever it is that you're doing. Tip number 3 is to have your gear organized. Now, because Sean and I camp and adventure on a regular basis, we actually have a designated gear room as well as an extra shelf in our garage with all of our camping gear. Regardless whether you have an entire room or just a box of your gear, it's so important to keep it organized. We have specific locations for each piece of gear that we have, such as our tents and our sleeping bags, and those always go there so that we know where they are and we can grab them easily. We also have designated boxes for our different types of camping supplies. We have a camp kitchen box as well as a miscellaneous camping supplies box, and those are always stocked, and we make sure everything in them is clean and ready to go so we can just grab them and head out whenever we go camping. We also make sure that our snacks are stocked, any consumable products have been restocked, and anything that might need to be charged or needs new batteries, we make sure that those are freshly charged so that basically we're always ready to go. Camping supplies, I think, can really get easily disorganized, and when you're at camp, it can be really easy to misplace things, so making sure that you're organized and have everything collected at home is super important for a smooth transition to your campsite and making sure that you have everything that you need for camping. You want to be able to sort through your gear easily, know where things are, and keep everything stocked and ready to go so that you're able to go on a camping trip at the drop of a hat. It used to take a really long time for us to pack up our car and go out for a camping trip, but now that we have everything organized in the appropriate boxes and we know where everything is, we can quickly pack up the car and get going on our next adventure. Tip number 4 is prep your food at home. Cooking at camp is my favorite activity, and I'm of the opinion that any food can be camp food. And the reason that's possible is because I do a lot of the prep work at home before I even get to camp. All your veggies can be chopped at home, marinades can be made, sauces can be prepared. A lot of the different elements and prep work that go into actually making the food can be done beforehand at home. I've been able to make some pretty complex and really good food at camp because I took the time to prep everything at home. Whenever I'm planning my camp meals, I will see what can I pre-prep in advance to actually going on the camping trip, and I'll make sure that everything that I've prepped is in clearly labeled containers and bags so I know what goes to which meal. It also allows me to cook meals rather quickly at camp and get them all ready, and it reduces the cleanup that needs to be done at camp because the only things that usually end up needing to be cleaned are the pots and pans that I cooked in, and none of the supplies that I used to prep the meal. It leads to a really convenient and fast way to make food at camp, but it also makes complex meals a lot more simple. And my final tip is to just have fun. Camping is meant to be enjoyable and a time where you can be in the outdoors, reconnect with nature, and just relax and get away from the busyness of life. So do what makes you happy, do what you enjoy and makes you comfortable. Or if you want, step out of your comfort zone and take a solo trip or do some backpacking instead of just your traditional camping. Camping is such a versatile activity. There's so many ways that you can do it. So don't stress and just make sure you're enjoying your time. I hope that you found these 5 tips helpful. Let me know in the comments if you use any of them on your future camping trips, or if you have any other tips that you use while planning camping trips. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next video.